Okay, so find yourself a nice, comfortable position for meditation where you can be relaxed and yet alert. So, generally, not leaning forward or back, elbows in close to the body so your shoulders can be relaxed. Mhm. And stretching up, stretching the spine, pressing the sitting bones into your cushion or chair, and then allowing everything to soften, to hang off the spine. And we'll start with one sound of the bell. Allowing the attention to sink deeply into the body, noticing sensation in the body, and allowing whatever's there to be there, letting go of the past, letting go of what may come, and even letting go of what's happening right now. Not trying to figure anything out, not trying to make anything happen, just relaxing right now and resting in whatever's there in the body breathing. And wherever you notice any holding or resistance, any bracing, inviting that to let go, to relax, not forcing anything, but rather just dropping any effort. And noticing that you're the witness to whatever's happening. You're the one who notices. You notice the sensations in the body. You notice when you're breathing in and when you're breathing out. And you may notice other things in the background, mental talk or mental images or sounds. And doing your best to let those stay in the background. Whenever you notice that your attention is being pulled towards those things, doing your best to let go of the rope, to release the pull, and to keep your attention focused on the body breathing. And whenever the attention wanders, and then you notice that it's wandered, celebrate that moment and bring the attention gently back to the body breathing. watching it all from the seat of awareness. And not trying to control anything. Whenever you notice any effort to change anything or control anything, to defend or to grab onto, inviting that to let go. And just allowing the body to relax and you, the one who's watching, relax. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Bringing kindness to this moment, to yourself, and just allowing yourself to be exactly as you are. Just as you are is perfect. You don't have to be anyone else but yourself, just as you are right now. The mind may want things to be different, but you are not the mind. No matter what's going on, even if there's restlessness or sleepiness or difficult emotions, difficult sensations, doing your best to open to it, let it all the way in. The purpose of life is to experience life. And that's what we're practicing here. Experiencing each moment as fully as you can. And that does not require effort. It requires letting go of resistance. And having the courage to not let fear stop you from opening, from experiencing. And focusing now on the sensations of breathing. So perhaps a little narrower focus. You can notice all the sensations of breathing, or if you like, you can focus on just one part of it, perhaps the belly rising and falling, or the chest moving or the area around your nostrils. And noticing how with each in-breath, there's a sense of energizing, of aliveness. And with each out-breath, a sense of relaxation. Just riding the waves of the breath. And now imagine that with each breath, that's all there is. That after each breath, there's nothing else. After each breath, you instantly and painlessly cease to exist. So all there is this in-breath. It's the last one you'll ever take. All there is this out-breath. It's the last thing you'll ever experience. It is precious because it's all there is. Observing each precious breath from the seat of awareness. There is only this in-breath. There is only this out-breath. And with the sound of the bell, we'll bring this meditation to an end. So allowing the eyes to open if they're closed, and stretching whatever needs to be stretched, massaging whatever needs to be massaged. Mm. So I'm curious, just by a show of hands, I wonder, um, who focused on the breath at the nostrils? Anybody? Yeah, great, Elizabeth. Who focused on the breath at the belly? Yeah, a few people. And who focused on the breath at the chest? Two people. And who focused on the whole breath, the whole area of the body? Yeah. Okay. It's just my own personal curiosity. It doesn't matter. Anyone have any comments about that meditation or questions? Elizabeth, yeah. You're muted, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I found it really lovely. It was a shock to hear you say that this could be your last breath. And then it really deepened my experience and my appreciation. I guess that's how we should live our lives.
Yeah, I mean that is the, what this practice calls us to do, is to live each moment as deeply as we can, right? And this is Mickey's message. This is Thich Nhat Hanh's message. Um, and yeah, I mean, when I was at Plum Village one time, there was this amazing monk, and he led this walking meditation in the evening. It was a beautiful summer evening, and outside walking. And he asked us, he said, take a step and then you die. He said, I want you to practice, take a step and then you die. And it was like with each step, the whole world opened up. It was just, I had this most incredible experience. And so that's that's a variation on that one. Did anyone notice a difference in the experience of being aware of breathing when it was all there is, as I said? Yeah. Okay. So, and of course that comes out of the chapter on contemplating death, chapter 17. So, and in it, Mickey says death, death is our greatest teacher, because it teaches us that life is precious, that every moment is precious, every relationship is precious, right? You treat somebody a little differently if you think this is the last time I'm ever going to see them, right? You treat each breath differently, clearly, each step differently if you think it's going to be the last. It's like, and then in the chapter Mickey talks about, if you only have a week to live and you're at the hospital and you go outside and it's raining, whereas normally you would say, oh, it's raining, but now it's like, oh, this is my last chance to feel rain. And then it's a very, very different experience, right? You would actually want to feel it. You would want to experience it because it's your last chance, right? So death can really teach us something about the preciousness of life. And we often, I mean, I know, is there anybody here who often acts as though you've got all the time in the world? Have you noticed that? And so, even though we usually think of death as morbid and scary, having that awareness of death can help us live life more deeply, right? And also death is a huge fear for most of us, and avoiding thinking about it or talking about it allows that fear to stay inside. It's a way of defending, right? Whereas recognizing that you're going to die, that the people in your life are going to die, recognizing that and allowing yourself to feel what that brings up releases those samskaras, right? And these are super deep samskaras. Like fear of death is number one on the hit parade when it comes to fear, right? So Mickey doesn't really talk about that in the chapter, but I know from my practice that it's a, um, it's a big thing we defend against, you know, because our mental model often somehow doesn't include that thing about, yeah, I'm going to die and I don't know when, right? But in fact, that's the reality. That's the reality. And so when we hide from that reality, it just creates internal knots, some scars. So Mickey suggests regularly reflecting on how you would live your last 2 weeks or whatever length of time. Um, and I find that practice, you can apply the practice of like, all there is this to all sorts of things. So, um, I remember biking, I was biking home from meditation when I lived in Ottawa at one time, and it was rainy and it was cold, and I had about I don't know, a half-hour bike ride, and I was kind of miserable, and I was getting wet, of course, and um, and I thought to myself, okay, let me imagine that all I have is this bike ride. When the bike ride's over, life is over. There's all there is this bike ride, and I would feel, I could feel the rain on my face and hands. I could feel the sweat. I could feel the exertion and that my body was working hard and this sense of being strong. And I had the most wonderful bike ride home, right? And I do that all the time now. I bike in the winter and um, maybe not so much this winter because I have nowhere to go, but usually, and I get cold at times, and you know, and our tendency is to say, as this is, I think he talked about this in chapter 1 or chapter 2. Our tendency when it's cold out is to say, "Oh my God, I'm cold. How much longer? I should be there soon." Right? You try and comfort yourself. But another way to do it, that's our natural way to do it. A better way is, all I have is this bike ride, or all I have is this walk. All I have is this period of time until I'm out of the cold. And can I just so if this is all there is, then I can appreciate it, right? I can appreciate the fact that I am alive and that this is an interesting experience. Um, so Mickey also asks us to say, what is it inside you that won't let you live life fully, right? Why is it that we don't value every moment, right? And if you look closely, you'll see that it's the voice in your head, not surprisingly, that wants to think about the next thing, always thinking about the next thing. I know. Anybody notice this in your experience that you know you'll say, "Oh, I can't wait to do, like, I'm really looking forward to dinner," and then you're sitting there at dinner, but you're not thinking about dinner. You're thinking about the next thing that you want to do, right? And it's like constantly thinking about the next thing, and when you get to it, you don't want to be there. You want to be on the next thing, and so you're not experiencing anything fully, right? So to me, this chapter is really a call to be fully present with every moment, you know and it's such a simple technique to say, imagine that this is all I have. It really, you know if you're willing to humor yourself, it's a really powerful technique. Um, and again, Mickey talks about, you know, he says the only thing there is to get from life is the growth that comes from experiencing it, right? So we devalue any, you know, we defend against these uncomfortable experiences, but really what life is about is experiencing every moment, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And personally, the neutral is the really interesting, like most of our lives, it's pretty neutral. We're not experiencing terrible discomfort and we're not experiencing great joy. We're just kind of going about our day. And those neutral experiences are, it's so easy to turn the neutral experiences into positive experiences by just fully being there with them, right? That's why Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, you know, practice enjoying washing the dishes, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, you know, all these like neutral experiences that we can make positive experiences so easily just by really being there. Um, and I love his line. I used to have this as my, I should probably put it back as my signature line. It's your attempt to get special experiences from life that make you miss the actual experience of life, right? Because we don't value the regular experiences. We like, you know, I'm waiting for the weekend. I'm waiting for the vacation. I'm waiting until I get this or that or the other. I want something special. I need something, you know, I need something different, right? And that's a, I mean, during COVID especially, right? It's like, oh no, I'm doing the same thing every day. I'm not getting out. There's no, but, but, you know, it's just the moment to moment experience that is really what makes life worth living. Because if you just wait for special experiences, like what fraction of life are special experiences? Do you really want to limit your life to just that small bit of it? Um, so, you know, the admonition here is not to focus so much on, you know, like when he talks about what you would do in the last 2 weeks of life, you know, imagining that. It's not so much about what you would do. It's not like, oh, I've never done this and I need to do that and I want to do this and I want to do that. It's about how deeply can you live each moment, right? Because you know, um, it's so easy to get into the I want, right? The bucket list, if you will, right? Um, um, but like that night in Plum Village, you know, after the walk, I thought to myself, I'm just going to pretend that all I have is this evening, and then I die. And you know, I looked around and I could see the leaves blowing in the wind, like the trees blowing in the wind, and just the breeze. I mean, there was a heat wave, so like this was like 10 o'clock at night, and it was about 30 degrees out, and still light. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous, and the breeze, you know, the breeze was like a warm, very warm breeze, and I thought to myself, okay, it's the last night of my life. What do I want to do? Do I want to call my mom? No, no, I don't. Like what I'm experiencing right now is wonderful. I feel so connected to life. I feel so connected to the breeze and the trees. And I look around and the people, like not even that I'm talking to anyone, but just I just feel connected to people. And and I don't want to I don't want to lose. Like this is what I want. Right. This is how I want to spend my last few moments. You know, I don't need anything. There's no bucket list. There's no need for anything else. Because what I'm experiencing is amazing. And I'm not doing anything. I'm just standing here looking around at the trees and the sky, you know. So it's an interesting thing to think about, like this idea of the you know, the outer versus the inner almost, right? And Mickey often says in his talks, he says, you know, he says, You'll know this is really working when you feel happy for no reason at all. He says that's the best reason to feel happy is when there's no reason at all. Um, and anyone have any thoughts on that?
I
Elizabeth, yeah.
found that what you said was really beautiful. It's like you give us a little mini Dharma talk every time through Mickey, but these are perennial truths, and that we all want to hear and we all need to hear. Um, yep.
Trying to get okay. Jen, yeah.
I have a question. I kept having this thought while you were talking about that idea or practice of think about if you were going to die in a week, then what is it that you would want to do? So I know we're not talking about the outer, but I think the purpose of that practice is to recognize your fear, like just to recognize what limiting beliefs you may have.
Yeah, it could be. And the outer, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
My question would be like, how do you think Mickey's teaching kind of speak to that idea?
Well, in the chapter, he doesn't seem to talk about fear a lot. He mostly talks about using death to appreciate the preciousness of each moment. So he doesn't seem really geared to that. I've never heard him actually talk about, overcoming the fear of death. So I'm not sure what his thoughts are on that. But and I would say it's not to say don't think about the outer. I think it's more the juxtaposition of the outer and the inner. In other words, like notice where your mind goes. It may go to the outer, it may go to the inner, it may go to, wanting both to be perfect, right? Wanting to sit on a beach in beautiful weather and just, enjoy that moment, right? But of course, anytime we put then you're spending your last week flying to wherever, figuring out where you're going to go, da 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 da, right? Is that how you want it, And maybe that's how you want it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's no judgment, right? But it's just thinking to yourself, like, and it may be like I've had the benefit of having these experiences, so for me, it's clear that that it's clear how I, on the one hand, don't need anything outside. And yet at the same time, when I think about how I want to spend my last week or two, or how I want, if I only had a year to live or whatever, I always think I want to be in nature, always. And that night in Plum Village, I was, I mean, it's pretty natural there. It's not the middle of the woods, but it's, it's not the city. You don't hear the city. You can see the stars when you look up. So, it's just an interesting contemplation. I would encourage you to contemplate this at some point. How do you want to live your life? What is of value to you? How much is inner and how much is outer? Because we're not going to just sit there with our eyes closed through our whole lives, enjoying our inner world, right? We live in the world, right? And it's a beautiful world filled with beautiful people, beautiful things. But you don't need it, but you don't need anything, right? You can enjoy it without feeling like you have to have it. right? I love sitting by the ocean, but I hardly ever get to be by the ocean. And so that could be a big source of suffering for me. If I was like, oh, I would need to be by the ocean, I need to be by the ocean, right? So if it's there, if it's within your reach, go for it. If it's not, let it go. Heidi, yeah?
For me, it reminds me of something my teacher used to say was live your life with God on one hand and death on the other. And it's like the middle way. It's sort of like the last 3 chapters of Mickey's book, because it's how do you live your life recognizing the impermanence of life, that everything is going to change. So not getting too hung up on that, but also like, so for me, when he was bringing in the idea of death, it wasn't, yes, there's, there is the fear aspect, but it's also the missing out aspect. Like
Mhm.
somehow when we, like when we have a deadline, we're wonderful procrastinators as human beings. I don't know, anybody else not a procrastinator? My greatest fear is that if I die, people are going to find all these unfinished projects that I didn't take care of, and I like, no, anyways. So I was just looking at it as trying to find the middle ground between that sense of infinite
Mhm.
being God and ecstasy and love and all of those expanded, wonderful qualities, realizing that you can access them. And the fact that as a human being, you have a finite existence, so use it wisely. So, just,
Mhm.
and Mickey, I was reading before this class that The Secret of the Middle Way, how do you just live your life with between those two? Those are big, big thoughts to try to juggle.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's a good entree to move on to chapter 18, if that's okay with folks. Um, yeah, okay. So, so Mickey talks about this secret of the middle way, and this idea that that in the Tao, it's like a pendulum, and you can go over to one side, and if you go over to one side, then there's you're using a lot of energy to get up there, and then it's naturally going to want to try and get the other way, and it's going to probably swing to the other extreme. So there's these sort of extremes on either side, and then there's balance in the middle, right? And so he talks about living our life in balance, and that to be truly free, you want to, every time you get pulled out of the center, let go and allow yourself to come back to the center, right? And that it's kind of like this dynamic equilibrium, like a sailboat, that you're constantly pulling, adjusting the sail, adjusting your direction, to be where you need to be with the wind, right? And that's constantly changing, and it's kind of like that in life. um if you're with somebody all the time, that's too much on one side. If you're always alone, that's too much on the other side. um you know Food, whatever you want to talk about, you can have extremes on either side. I did a let's see here. um One thing I wanted to share with you is this so I did this up today, um because he talks about this, but just putting it together with his practice, with the practice of relax, releasing back, right, is this idea that on one side there's defending, right? There's the things that the unpleasant stuff that you defend against, right? And then on the other side is clinging, where the pleasant stuff that you want to hold on to, you want to relive. And in the middle is allowing, right? And so defending, clinging, on both those extremes, there's resistance, right? They're both characterized by resistance. And allowing, there's no resistance, right? And this is where there's balance. And he talks in the chapter about feel for the center, in the towards the middle of the chapter, he talks about always feeling for the center. So that's this place of allowing, this place of just being with the moment, right? And then you've got the edges, feeling for the edges, and that's the looking for the resistance, the looking for the clinging, the looking for the defending, the bracing. So you're constantly feeling for that resistance, and then, you know, inviting it to let go, where and just allowing, where there's no pull, right? So that's and I love what he says. He says, you're never going to wake up, see what to do, and go do it, right? It's always about being in the present moment and feeling your way in the present moment, right? It's not like figuring out what I should do with my life. Should I take this job? Should I buy this house? Should I, you know, marry this person? What should I have for dinner? Like, you don't have to, you know, it's not about figuring stuff out, right? And it's not about having a crystal ball. It's about always in each moment noticing what's there in your experience and feeling for that center and letting go of the extremes. So he talks about, you know, you're driving your car and someone cuts you off and you get angry. So it's very easy for that anger to hang out with you, for you to, you know, not want to experience it, and it's sort of, it's just there for, you know, 5 minutes or an hour or whatever. He says someone who's really, you know, in the Tao, if you will, it, you know, the emotion comes up, the fear or the anger or whatever it is comes up, you don't resist it, you allow yourself to feel it, and then it's gone. It got pulled a little bit and it came back, right? In Mahamudra practice, which is this awareness of Tibetan awareness practice, they talk about it's like drawing on water, right? Experience is like drawing on water. So the anger comes up and you experience it, and then the next moment it's gone, right? You write the word anger on the water, and then you look and, oh, it's gone. It's gone. So, you know, it's not that these great masters don't experience these emotions, right? It's not that the emotions go away. It's that they let them in all the way, so they don't, you know, the emotion arises and it passes away. It doesn't stay with us, and it doesn't create a samskara. So hopefully this sheds a little bit of light on, you know, it's come up in this course, you know, this idea of, you know, there's these instructions, but these instructions sometimes seem at odds with each other. And it's because we're trying to describe this thing that's hard to describe, but it's, you know, it's this practice of noticing resistance and dropping resistance and trying to stay in that centered seat of awareness, open to whatever's going on, right? Staying in that place of balance as much as you can. And that balance includes all three aspects of relax, release, lean back, right? Relax as in you're allowing, you're not resisting. Release as in when the thoughts want to pull you over here, let go. Think of it like the pendulum being pulled to the extreme, let go, so it can come back to the center. And watching it all from the seat of awareness, right? Because you can't do anything if you're not in awareness. You're just going to get tossed about. And you know, it's that, well, we'll talk about it more in chapter 19, but it's that disidentification with the thoughts and the emotions that allows us to, that is our anchor, that allows us to, you know, to just watch and allow when a disturbance comes up. You know, because as everyone here I think has noticed, it's, you know, when an actual disturbance comes up, is not so easy to just let it go, right? I mean, we're not letting go of the disturbance, we're letting go of the resistance, but it's not that easy to stop defending, right? It's not that easy to let the story go, right? I mean, just think about yourself describing a reaction, describing a disturbance. Most people spend most of the time talking about what happened on the outside and what they did on the outside, right? And that's all the story. So it's about how did you work with the resistance inside? Okay. Any questions or comments? So quiet tonight. Brian, yeah?
Working with the resistance, the past week or two, I've gone back to some phrases that I wrote down so that I could get a handle on them and start incorporating them. And it goes a little bit like this: let go of that part of me that's broken, that part that wants to resist, that part that is causing this disturbance, that part of me that doesn't like it, that part of me that wants it my way. That part of me is not me. I'm noticing it. That part of me tries to pull me into it.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Brian. Because that's the real practice, right? Taking this and applying it to your life and recognizing your patterns and the things that trick you, right? The things that come up and trick you into thinking, no, this time I want to defend. Right? You don't even actually think of that, but you just get caught in it, right?
Sure do.
Yeah.
And the mind's ability to trick is, it doesn't even seem like a trick. I'm still thinking about it being me. And so I'm still learning to let go of the mind, of me being the mind, of the mind being me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Susan,
Yeah, I want to, anyway, it is quiet tonight. I think it's like a very meditative feeling tonight. Maybe I'm feeling tired and I'm just feeling it. I don't know. But you know what? I just want to mention something that just experienced. I have a bell technician came because we had to have some changes on our internet TV thing. So this guy from Bell came, and he's not wearing a mask. He's wearing like a scarf like this, and he keeps touching it, and like he's not using it properly. And when Bell said that he's gonna come, they said, well, don't worry. Like, I didn't even ask. I didn't say I was worried, but they said, we're sending the technician, and he's going to be very cautious and observe all the rules and wear mask, like, and wash his hands. And I go, okay, I didn't ask, but they offered that. But then I noticed he was like really not using.
mm-hmm.
Anyway, so when I was observing him, and he kept talking to me, and he kept pulling it up, and it kept falling down, and he kept pulling it up, and it's a very thin scarf. And I was looking at him, and I thought, like, I noticed a little bit of being a little bit annoyed, because I was thinking, should I tell him something? Shouldn't I tell him something? So there was, anyway, but then I relaxed into it. And I thought, he's doing his best, and let it go. I relaxed, I released it. And then I came upstairs to this session. And for me, it was, I let go. And then when you started the meditation, during the meditation, I noticed my mind saying, oh, but the guy didn't use his scarf properly. He didn't have a mask. And then I go, oh, there it goes again. Like, didn't I let go already? And then I thought, okay, it doesn't matter why it came up again. Okay, release, relax.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering, like, even when I thought that I let it go, where did that come from? Is it because there was this little tiny samskara there? And
Pro-
my yeah,
I
or
mean, probably, yeah. Because
but
if
it's
it came,
worth there to release it again and just let it go again.
I mean, I don't think you have to really, I mean, you know, you can, it's hard to tell in the moment, have I fully released this, right? And in fact, we're not trying to, like, we want to fully release it. You know, we don't want to, first, I mean, we don't want to create a new samskara. We want to release the old samskaras, but in the moment when you're practicing, you're just trying to experience it fully, because wanting any particular outcome is counterproductive to the practice, because the practice is to be open and not trying to control things. And so, you know, it's a delicate balance between, you know, like inviting the letting go to the inviting the release, like the you know, inviting the resistance to relax, and inviting um you know, like, and not, you know, obviously you have an aim in your practice, but it's important to try and keep the aim on the what's going on in the present moment, and not on not on, you know, making the samskara go bye-bye, right? So, but you know, it you know, it's hard to tell. And it,
But the work there is just to let it go again, right?
yes,
Yeah,
anytime you notice resistance,
yeah. Even when I
then
feel
relax.
it comes, just let it go.
Yeah, yeah. And anytime the personal mind comes up, and pretty much any unintentional thought you can presume is the personal mind, you know, anytime that comes up, do your best to not engage it, to see it as garbage,
Yeah,
you know, and not to worry about it, because it's you can't, and not to try to stop it either, right? Or worry about it, or, you know, anything like that. It you know, you just keep relaxing and releasing, relaxing and releasing, and you know, eventually it'll take you there.
yeah. It's we're kind of crazy, no?
Well, I
No,
mean,
no. It's I'm not. I'm just saying, like, kind of crazy. It's almost like I look at it. I mean, this is so insignificant, right? This is so small in
it's
my
but
life.
it's the perfect stuff to work with,
Yeah,
you know. And for you, it's small. I mean, I know for some people they would freak out at the same thing, right? You know, and maybe they have every right to freak out. I mean, not to freak out, but to, you know, to think, you know, other people may be like, tell this guy, you know, like, get a mask or get out, you know, um, which is perfectly reasonable to do as long as you're nice about it, right? As long as you're not in reaction, and you're like, no, like, you know, the anger comes up or the fear comes up and you feel it, and then you say to yourself, no, this is actually something that I don't want in my house, and, you know, anyway, again, the outer isn't important. The important is that you're focused on just letting, you know, allowing yourself to fully experience what's going on in your inner world, and then, doing whatever is called for in the outer world. You know, Mickey does talk about this idea that as you get freer and freer, and that you sort of naturally get this kind of wisdom, you sort of know what to do. I'm not there yet. So I just kind of go with the, like, I'm not going to worry about it too much because it's not that important one way or another. You know, if I decide to go here or go there. Sandra, you had your hand up?
Hi. I just wanted to ask a question sort of related to that. So I've been paying attention to in the moment when something isn't going my way, or I get a criticism. Criticism is one of my big you know, triggers, like in work or from somebody close to me. And so I'm noticing, how, it comes at me and I'm like, just, allow it. Okay, so they didn't like this thing. Okay, they didn't like it. And work it through and just, try and be okay with that. And in the moment, it's going pretty well, or even pushing back, like in the moment, saying something that, or saying something I know someone isn't going to like. So
Mhm.
I'm doing those things, and in the moment it's fine. And then I'm noticing a few days later that I feel kind of closed. It stays with me. It's like, okay, in the moment it goes fine. And then a day, 2, 3 days later, I really feel closed up. Like
Right,
you know, and
right, right. Well, yeah, and it sounds like it's a pretty, deep samskara. These negative attitudes or negative judgments of ourselves generally are pretty deep. So, it's something that is not just gonna, fully transform. The other thing is yeah, I don't want to like pounce on your language, but you said something in there about trying to be okay. But we're not trying to be okay. We're trying to fully experience the difficulty. Trying to be okay is defending. Trying to be okay is saying, I'm not okay. I want things to be different.
but when I say okay, that's not exactly what I mean. Like,
Okay.
so for example, if a client didn't like something, okay, so I have a business meeting, client doesn't like something I presented, and I'm like, okay, in my head, I'm not a superstar. Okay, I'm not a superstar in this moment.
Right. So, and that's the positive psychology, right? Which is a way to,
Really?
yeah, yeah.
How is that positive? I just accepted that I'm not a superstar. I want to be a superstar.
Well, it's positive because the client, the key issue, the key thing here is the client says some 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 negative judgment around your work. And then the question is, what are you experiencing? What does that trigger in you? Right? And and so then it triggers some difficult emotion, I'm assuming. Is that right?
Yeah, disappointment.
Yeah. So it triggers that. And then in your mind you say, if you say something to try and you know not go down the rabbit hole, you say, oh, this is okay, it's okay, I can accept this, right? So that prevents you from going like way down, right? But to full but it's the opening to it, the relaxing and watching it from the seat of awareness, really fully experiencing that disappointment or whatever other emotions are there. It's really when you're open to that and fully experience that, that's what really transforms it.
I don't want to feel that. You're right.
Yeah, yeah.
But how do you allow that and not get carried away with it?
You anchor yourself in the seat of awareness.
Mm.
It's that sense of being the witness, the sense that the emotions and the thoughts are not you, that allows you to to not get carried away, to not get overwhelmed.
Okay, thank you. That gives me kind of like the next step to work with it.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So, where are we at? So in terms of home practice, did anybody want to share anything from home practice? We had, as usual, working with the small stuff, setting a strong intention not to give away your happiness and noticing when your heart closes. And then also this exercise of writing down a problem that you recently faced, and could you reframe it as not a problem, but rather a challenge, or just, that whatever happened is not a problem. So anyone have any questions about or anything to share about working with that, Elizabeth? Yeah.
After I kind of stomped my feet last week, and I appreciate that you all let me do that, I finally got something that I think worked. I am not sure, and I just I wanted to present it. And it speaks to what all of you said earlier. It's like the stuff keeps coming up.
Oh, you muted yourself again.
I have tinnitus, so a noise in my head that comes intermittently. And when I'm sitting quietly meditating, that noise comes up. And I feel the annoyance, the disappointment, I don't like this. And when that comes up, and it's a repeated phenomenon, of course, I've been working with it as my disturbance, and I just kind of feel the annoyance, and then the disappointment, and I feel like I say yes to it. Yes, it's there. It's my buddy. It's going to be there. Say yes, and I say yes, and I feel it, and I feel it, and I feel it, and then it's better. I don't feel annoyed. It's still ringing, but I don't feel annoyed. And I think, oh, I don't know what just happened, but now I can get on with meditating,
Right.
And that will happen in a half hour. That will happen 2 or 3 times, but I'm beginning to be more and more okay with it. It doesn't take as long.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful practice. It's wonderful practice to just open to that, And I have the same, I have tinnitus like all the time. So most of the time I don't notice it, but when I'm meditating, I notice it a lot. And in fact, the deeper I go, the louder it gets. And but it doesn't, I sort of notice it, and I just, it's like there's nothing I can do about this. I'm so I've just gotten very used to it. I mean, I've it's been years and years and years of this, right? So it sometimes I still have the thought, I wish it would go away. I wish I could actually experience silence. Like I don't know what silence sounds like anymore. But it's fine. Like it's not a problem, but it's a wonderful thing to work with, because it's an annoyance that you can do nothing about, and it's not making you go crazy, so it's fairly low on the intensity of disturbance scale, so it's a perfect thing to work with. Just really experience it, allow it to be. It's wonderful. Eleanor?
Yes, I just wanted to share with the group. I don't know if anybody knows about this instrument that there is, and it's a monitor that you put on your head and then behind your ears while you're meditating. And when your mind wanders I guess you can set it for what sound comes on. Uh, it's actually a family member who had this on loan from the hospital. And so I got to try it for 5 minutes where I wore the monitor and I meditated for 5 minutes, and it tells you, and then it records like how many bird chirps there were, like when your mind went off, uh, for how long in that 5 minutes you were calm,
Yeah.
when how much time was spent in mind wandering. I really did not get to really study it that that much. I would like to try it again and do it again. And I want to speak to my family member, because my family member is the one that's really is using it on loan to help him
Yeah.
in his meditations, in his mindful meditations. I don't know if anybody else has heard of this.
Yeah,
I was totally amazed by it.
yeah, it's called Muse, M-U-S-E.
That's it, news, yes.
I think it's about $200. Yeah, I know lots of people who used to work there who helped develop it. So yeah, if you want to get one, it's called M-U-S-E, Muse. Um,
I thought you would find it interesting that there is such a thing, because it's like you can kind of measure your thoughts and measure, you can get
yeah, yeah,
information
yeah,
on what you are actually thinking or what's going on inside of you.
yeah, yeah.
So, and I don't know.
I mean, some people
What's
love
your
it.
thoughts?
Yeah, some people love them. Some people, I find it uncomfortable and it doesn't. But anyway, I just want to ask: is there, in particular, to people who haven't asked many questions, who've been kind of quiet for much of the course, if you have anything you want to share from your practice in terms of any questions or obstacles, or just sharing your experience? Saying hi. Kayla, yeah?
I don't have any questions, but I can just share the experience I had, which Lori, you and I talked about a little bit on our call this week. But I found the first half of the course up until Christmas like really quite challenging. And the one of the challenges I was having was really trying to apply the practice to the bigger things. And so I was, obviously getting kind of stuck in it and frustrated. And something clicked on the call last week with everyone. I think it was just, I don't know, the exchange of information and that we shared. And since then, and even leading up to last week, I've just noticed a big difference in terms of like how much when you use the practice on the really, really small stuff, you can notice like when the practice, at least for me, I could notice when the practice was working and wasn't working. And one of the things that came up was when I sat back and really relaxed, like doing the practice properly, I could actually feel energy like moving within me, and my mind being very, very quiet and calm. And I could feel the sensation of that resistance like moving through me in a different way, where before I'd really only been exposed to the pull and latching onto the pull and going towards it and rationalizing and trying to work it out. So yeah, it's a thank you to the group, because I really feel like last week there was something that just shifted in it, and it helped me a lot with the practice. So since Christmas, there's been a change, but this last week in particular. So yeah, just sharing. No questions.
Great. Thank you, Kayla.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did anyone work with the noticing the heart close practice or the no problem practice?
I can say
Brian?
that, yeah, I've been working on something also, something that you and I talked about too. Instead of trying to be open, Laura, you suggested not closing. And it seems to have a lot more bite to it. It's easier and more effective than having the mindset of trying to be open.
Yeah. That's what I find too. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Okay. Why don't we move on to chapter 19. Unless anyone has anything else they want to share. Sandra, yeah?
I just wanted to share a quick story. Kayla, your share reminded me of something. I had it was over the Christmas holidays. My hobby is to draw and paint, and I have kind of a conflicted relationship with it because the artist sometimes feels judgment. It's like you've got to perform, and then it becomes aversive. But I love it when it works. So, anyways, I found time for one painting on the holidays, and it was the strangest experience because I didn't have any of that judgment happening. It was almost like the painting went through me. I don't know how to explain it better than that. It was like any kind of hesitation. It was like my hand was moving. The hesitation just went away. It was like something went through me and moved my hand, and I was thrilled with the painting. It just was exactly what I wanted. So that's it. It was like that energy that you're describing. It's very hard to explain it. And I felt like it had something to do with letting go. So thanks.
Thanks, Sandra. Okay, so chapter 19, the final chapter, the loving eyes of God. So this sometimes elicits reactions in folks because, of course, we're talking about God. Although, even though Mickey likes to use the word God or spirit, you can think of it as the universe or the force or, the quantum field or whatever you want to think of it. But basically, he says, there's a part of you that's beyond the personal self, right? And you can choose to identify with the personal part, the thoughts, the emotions, the sensations, or you can choose to identify with the spirit, which really, for our purposes, means awareness itself, right? The witness, that sense of knowing, if you will, right? And this is a big part of the practice, actually, especially, once you sort of understand the relax and release part, and even the, asking who notices or whatever you do to have that sense of the witness, that awareness of the subject, to positively identify with the awareness or with the you can think of it as the like being like having like the higher self, if you will, or you can think of it as God. But identifying with that really helps to provide that that thing that you can hold on to, right? You know, I mean, in the book, Mickey talks about this idea that we cling in order to have a sense of solidity, right? But everything is constantly changing. The only thing that isn't changing is the awareness itself, right? That's the one constant in your life, is that you're aware. Your body changes, your thoughts change, your emotions change, your views change. Everything changes except the awareness itself. And so that's something that, and the awareness, you know, the awareness has no preferences, it has no likes or dislikes, it has no goals. It's just watching. So it's something that you can use as an anchor when the disturbance is going crazy. And you know, and in this chapter, one thing that that he says, and this is very, you know, similar to, you know, this idea of not closing versus opening. Mickey says, you know, as you go up and up and up, like as you release more and more samskaras, and as you more and more dwell in a very positive place, and that that it's this idea that he says you back into that, right? So you're not reaching for the joy, you're not reaching for the openness, you're not, you know, you're not trying to get somewhere, rather you're letting go of what's holding you down, right? So you're focused on what's holding you down and cutting those tethers, right? This is where the untethered soul comes from. You're cutting those tethers, and you're focused on cutting those tethers, and you just naturally drift up, right? So you're not reaching for God. You're just not letting, like you're cutting the ties that your lower self, the hold that your lower self has on you, right? Your samskaras, your personal mind. And he says at some point as you go up and up, it just pulls you up. It just pulls you up. You know, and you can think of up as being up into a more positive space, into more positive energy. And at some point, you connect with this cosmic consciousness, right? And by the way, it's interesting that this is the one chapter where he doesn't so much write from personal experience. He talks a lot about the great masters, right? And this idea of the being a drop that falls into the ocean, and losing this sense of of you know, of duality, of you know, there's the feeling, there's the love, and there's the one who's feeling the love, and then at some point it's just the love, there's no one feeling the love, right? So this is the enlightenment experience, right? This is the non-dual experience, the you know, the drop falling into the ocean, as they say. So it's not something that I've experienced. I don't know if Mickey's experienced it. He doesn't really say. But anyway, this is where this could be heading. I must say that through my practice, I used to look at this and go, I don't know, pretty skeptical. But now I've had glimpses of it, and I would say, you know, not that there's a God or there's life after death. I have no idea. But there's definitely something going on. There's something going on that's more than, you know, what science can point to. There's definitely something unfathomable to the mind. Like, I really have a strong sense of that. Anyway, you can forget about that, because of course we're not reaching for that. We're not trying to get there, and certainly we don't want to be attached to that. But one point that Mickey seems to be trying to make in this chapter is that God is a loving God, and that through practice you can see that, you can experience that, and that you don't have to worry, and that no matter what you've done in your life, God, like the sun, is always there waiting for you. You can never make God unhappy. Ecstasy is the only thing God experiences. And whatever you do, you're not taking God out of its ecstasy. Right? So don't worry. Don't worry. And like the prodigal son, the universal joy and peace and love will embrace you when you release your samskaras. And to me, the main practice point is don't reach for this stuff. Let go of what's below you, and practice identifying with the awareness. Practice not identifying with, with the outer stuff, or even with the thoughts or the emotions or the body. Right? I find that choosing to identify with the awareness is very helpful to this practice, and very helpful to happiness. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Anyone read this chapter and go, God, or anything like that? Any concerns?
I read that chapter at the early on in December, and I was very skeptical, and I mentioned it to you. This time I thought, oh yeah, let's go with it. Wonderful. Let it all happen. I'd be delighted. Yeah. But in the meantime, it's practice, practice, practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And this chapter, I mean, he also points to the idea that, you'll notice that you're being less judgmental. And wouldn't it be wonderful to see everyone as just to love them for who they are, warts and all, right? And not even see the warts as a bad thing, but just see them as, oh yeah, isn't that interesting? That's, it's quite a, and it's a very good indication that your practice is working. And now I will use the word working, when you start to be, to just accept people more and love people more. And you can practice that. You can practice that, right? You can practice kindness. You can practice compassion. You can practice doing nice things. You can practice noticing, if someone seems to be down, to actually ask them, oh, hey, how are you? Is there anything I can do? Right? It's very easy to practice these things. Thich Nhat Hanh says, you should put one act of kindness in the morning, one act of compassion in the afternoon, every day. Right? And you can do it to yourself. You can, especially now, COVID and everything, you can practice an act of kindness or an act of compassion to yourself, if there's no one else around. But this way you feed the higher self, right? Because at the end of it, what we're doing here is we're trying to not feed the lower self and to feed the higher self. So we're going to do a breakout group. So we're pretty much finished the book. So the breakout group is to discuss the question, where do you think this practice can take you? Okay. So we'll just have about 5 minutes. And so everyone's familiar with the breakout room. So we'll have about 5 minutes, as I said. And the question is, where do you think this practice can take you? Right? Or where do you want to go? But where do you think this practice can take you? So here we go. So you need to press go to the room button.
a little run with a friend earlier, thinking I'd wake me up, but I must have went. Hi, Laurie.
Hey, hope you don't mind me breaking into your breakout room.
Of course not. Andrea, where do you think this practice can take you? Have you had experience with this before?
No,
No?
no. I started meditating, I guess, in the early fall.
Okay.
Or summer. But prior to that, I hadn't done anything,
Yeah.
despite Lori telling me about it for many years.
Yeah.
I did enjoy reading the book.
Yeah.
You know, so that was good. And I think, you know, finding meditations that work for me will be something, you know, that I'll do. Where it takes me, I sort of hope having more peace. And just, I guess, a little more happiness. Or, yeah. So,
I think so. I feel like it goes not hand in hand, but I find myself with a quieter brain. And so then when these things in life happen, I find I can, instead of thinking, oh, I need to take a minute here, I just take a minute and seem to, especially the little things, like Kayla said earlier, when I continually do the little things, it's amazing how they start to become a little bit more second nature. So I'm hoping that just kind of literally spills over into the rest of my life. Lori has assured me more than once that practicing the little things will lead to the bigger things. But yeah, it's like I can't explain how much I loved reading the book, and like it was like a page turner in the fact of, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. This why isn't this taught like everywhere, every single day? Because it just seems like it should be a more natural way to live life, but
yeah.
it's not. Yeah.
I know when I first started reading the book, I was like, oh, you know, the first few chapters really made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
to me, certainly
exactly.
with it and sort of go, oh, okay, this,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So that was good. And I know, like at work, several months ago, things that used to bother me and I would go back to my office and stew over, I don't have that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I even have somebody today, we had not a tiff, but just something that came up. And later on, he came to me and said, I hope you, you know, it was just me doing whatever. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing.
It didn't even faze me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And then when someone acknowledges it to you, you're just like, oh my gosh. And so then now I was like, oh my God, you poor thing, you've been feeling like that for so long. Like, we'll just let it go. Like, it's so natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really, really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was nice talking to you, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you. Good talking to you, Nancy.
Hey, Andrew. Mm. So we've got all the early returners here. Oh, time's up. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. Anyone want to quickly share where you think this practice can take you? Anyone say eternal conscious ecstasy? Eternal conscious ecstasy, anyone?
I said something similar. I said happiness and contentment. So yeah, very close to that.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to share?
Maybe I'll share before this course ends. I was sharing with Brian. I felt this week going nowhere, maybe to get I don't even know where I was going. I think to get groceries, and I felt this wave of this energy. I can't describe it, but it was like whoosh, like something rising, and it was while I was driving, and I got so excited about it. I went like, wow. And as soon as I did that, it went away because I got very excited, and then it went away. But because it was almost like my thought came in, oh, something is happening.
Yeah.
So, but I find like, because yeah, it's
yeah.
So I think that this is like a taste of, just letting go of my lower self, and things happen without me reaching for it, if and when things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. And that's, it's
It
just,
was pretty.
yeah. Yeah. So as Mickey would say, just, sometimes we have really good things happen to us and then they end, and then we feel this, this attachment, this sense of like, oh, it's gone. Right. And Mickey always says, just say thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I don't know. It's all good.
Mm. Yeah.
But I know it exists.
Mm-hmm.
I know it exists.
Yeah. Okay, so now it's time for that writing exercise I mentioned in the email. So if everyone could grab your pen and paper, and I'm just gonna put the questions in the chat. This is basically just let's see here. Okay. So what differences have you noticed from this practice? Like differences in your life, if any? What practices have been most helpful? So this is in the chat. So if you want to open the chat, you can see this. What words of encouragement have been helpful? So these are words of encouragement you can give yourself. What obstacles to practice have you faced, and how can you overcome them? Or how have you overcome them? And what practices do you want to continue? So this is just like some notes to help you as you practice in the future. Just to, it's just an opportunity to reflect on this practice. So you have about 6 or 7 minutes to write these out. So I would encourage you to write out all the questions so you have them, and then you can always work on them later if you like. And if you have any questions, just shout them out.
What do you mean by words of encouragement that have been most helpful? Like, I don't really understand what words of encouragement means.
Like to say to yourself, anything you say to yourself that helps you to practice, like just it could be telling yourself or reminding yourself of positive things that have come out of the practice, or it could be telling yourself that that you can do it, or it could be a phrase like be here now. So I mean, it could be just a practice, like a practice phrase, but it's basically what have you told yourself, or what have others said to you that helps to motivate you to practice? Because at the end of the day, motivation is really the most important thing. Because if you keep practicing, you'll see how it works. You'll get there. The biggest problem is the lack of motivation, and then you just stop. So it could be that words of encouragement that have been helpful is just like listening to one of Mickey's talks, or reading the book, or reading the summary, or
So Laurie,
yeah, Mark.
I was just sharing with Enrico when we were talking about not closing, how I had been recently reading a book on Korean Zen, and there's a chapter where the author was referencing some American who 15 years earlier had come up through the sort of a Hindu tradition and had started a practice that he was teaching about. The question was, are you avoiding relationship? And so when I read that, it kind of fused with the idea of not closing, and although I was curious whether he was talking about Mickey Singer, some American guy who but this idea of we're constantly in relation, and how much of that is being avoided. It was for me. So what I'm getting at is also what's encouraging for me is finding reference through other material that I've come across in other readings and practices, and how they all kind of support each other in different ways. They're sisters, brothers to each other in accessing the inner world and the light that lives there. Anyways, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, Elizabeth, yeah.
For me, I mentioned it earlier. For me, it's so hard to remember in the moment. The one thing that I remember you saying is just say yes. Just say yes. And and that's what I do. I say yes. And I love that image of don't close your heart. I echo what Mark and Brian said. I really resonate with that one.
Mm.
Just to keep it open. So those are my two keys that I use.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been a practice that's been helpful. And an obstacle to practice is remembering to practice, right? Yeah, Susan?
I have a continued obstacle of in practicing of when something good happens to me, right after it happens, my mind chatter just puts it down, just starts talking to me and telling me, no, this may not happen. And maybe, let's say, I actually got some good news about a job that I got hired to do. And after I got it, I was thrilled for maybe 15 minutes. And then the mind chatter went in. Well, what if they change their mind? What if they, it's like that paranoia comes in. What if
Right.
this happens? And what if that happens? And this is going to happen. And then
Right.
and really, this has just happened in the last week. And I cannot, this practice, the only thing that has helped me is to say stop. I stop it. I realize what I know what's going on, and I stop it, and it stops, and then an hour later it starts again. So
Right.
it's a big thing. This has been going on in my life forever.
Yeah.
So it's not going to just change, but I'm working on it. But just to say that, that's an obstacle that I'm facing is to be in the present moment and not allow good things to happen to me without and rejoice and enjoy it for longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. And and this is a common thing, and it certainly illustrates how, like, we think when we get what we want, we're going to be happy, but not so much. But it doesn't, the thoughts that come up, they're not obstacles to practice. They're the grist for the mill, right? They're like it's not like you don't practice with them. You do practice with them, right? And you practice like saying stop, which I just heard Mickey talk today, and he talked about this, like just telling his mind, stop, I've had it. You're, garbage. You're not actually trying to get the thoughts to stop, but you're just trying to release the pull of them. So, but the fact that there is this pull is not an obstacle to practice. It is what you practice with, right? Like, because it does sound like you practice with it, right?
Yeah, I guess it's more an issue than an obstacle.
Yeah, it's just like it's samskaras, right? And samskaras are the object of your practice, not an obstacle to practice. So it might help to look at them that way, right? This is something to practice with. This is an opportunity to learn to let go, right? And of course, we want instant transformation, right? We want these. It's like, why do I still have samskaras? Well, that's just another.
I never really thought of that incident as a samskara coming up, but I guess it is. Like, it's not allowing me to. Something's come up that's disturbing.
Yeah, 100. You can't always tell the difference between something new and something old coming up, but that one is something old coming up, because nothing happened nothing happened in your outer experience to that is by nature unpleasant or threatening, right? So the only place it could have come from was inside.
Okay.
So say hello, Samskara. How you doing? Nice to see you again. Make friends with it, right? Like it's a life's work. So just it's a life's work, you know. It's a precious moment. Okay, so yeah, we need to move on because we only got 10 minutes left, and I want to have a little closing thing. So has everyone written the questions down? Yeah. Okay. So I'll just so hold on to this and work on it some more if you like. You can use it to refer back to. So in terms of where we go from here, hopefully you all saw the email that there is this ongoing monthly discussion group that you can participate in. There's no charge or anything, and if you haven't yet, if you'd like to participate and you haven't yet done the doodle poll, please do that. I'll probably send out a reminder in a day or two, but please just do it on your own. That would be great. So we've got those. Also, I'm going to send out a feedback form just because I want to hear from you in terms of what you found helpful or not so helpful and any suggestions and things like that. And also, if you want to give a testimonial, that would be great. If you feel that this course has helped you, because I think that's a really important thing for people to see, if for others who want to take the course, and this is like this practice, like 6 weeks is such a short period of time to be practicing with this. So this is really just hopefully to get you in the habit and get you motivated to practice, but really the big fruits of the practice are ahead of you. And so I would encourage you to continue. And if you like, you can take the course again for $50. I started this with the second one, and a number of people have come back and taken it, seem to find that worthwhile, because it is, it provides that accountability structure and also the one-on-ones. So I'll yeah, I have one starting the 21st of February. So anyway, I'll send out an email at some point about that. I haven't done it yet, but I'm thinking I might if people are interested. I'm kind of resistant to this, but just start like some online discussion group, like a WhatsApp group or a, God help me, Facebook group. If you're wanting that sort of interaction. I'll probably send out something about that to everyone who's taken the course and see if there's much interest. See if anyone else wants to moderate it. So and I'm here for you. Like if you can, at any time in the future, feel free to email me. Feel free to request a consultation. I'd be happy to do that. Whatever I can do to support your practice, I want to do. If you're interested, one thing, I sort of did this and then I kind of stopped doing this, but if you want to have a partner to practice with, and you want me to like find someone for you to practice with for some period of time, 6 months or whatever period of time, whatever you feel you need to support yourself, just let me know. And Plum Village, they call this second body practice, but it's the idea of having like a practice buddy. So that's yeah. So I want to end just by just sharing just a couple of words in terms of what what our time together has meant for you, what this course has meant for you, what it's given you, or So for me, I would say depth and joy. So if it's okay, I'm just going to sort of go along and call people's names out just because it's a lot faster that way. And we only have 5 minutes left. So, and if you want, you can just press the space bar to mute, like to unmute while the space bar is pressed, or you can just do it the regular way. So Rosemary, you're privileged to be at the top left corner of my screen. Would you like to share a couple of words? What this course means to you? This time together. I think you're muted. You're muted.
Oh,
There you go.
new energy and a deeper awareness of myself.
Thanks, Rosemary. Kayla?
The course has given me more flow, new perspectives, and definitely increased happiness.
Thank you. Jen?
I would say the two words that come to mind are connection and hope. Thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Jen. Nancy?
I would say I have such a bigger awareness, and it's been very freeing feeling for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea?
I would say the big one is calm, a lot more calm in my life, and clarity from reading the book.
Calm and clarity. Thank you. Elizabeth?
I think it's given me courage to go ahead and do this work. And it's given me an appreciation for our commonality and how we share so much, and how this is the way it is on planet Earth, and we're all in this together.
Yeah, courage and commonality. Thank you. Sandra?
Unexpected feelings like freedom and courage, just at unexpected moments, just and compassion and creativity. I just wanted to say thank you to you, Lori. It was wonderful. And thank you to everybody because of the sense of community. I love practicing with all of you.
Thanks, Sandra. Susan?
I would say great enjoyment. I really enjoyed this. This was like fun and enjoyment. And the other thing was like 100% dedication to this practice, like full commitment. Like it's not questioning it anymore. In it. So this has been like, it kind of made it very clear to me.
Great. Thank you, Susan. Eleanor?
I guess many of the things that have already been said, I would agree. Calmness, compassion, joy, and being happy to find this group, because I've been following Michael Singer for over a couple of years and listening to his talks. So getting a group has been just wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, Lori, very much.
Thanks, Eleanor. Enrica?
I actually have three, and the first one is a deeper knowledge. the second is I practice compassion towards myself when I was getting frustrated and I couldn't, because I was trying to figure it out. So I was compassionate towards myself. And the third one is a bigger sense of faith.
Faith. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Enrico.
Thank you.
Francis?
For me, I would say it gave me a lot of peace, comfort, tranquility with some of the things you discussed, as well as a greater sense of awareness and a whole new learning experience for me.
Thanks, Francis.
It was wonderful. Thank you, Laurie.
Heidi?
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you to everyone. It's really incredibly enriching to have everyone share their experience and to find out that, hey, we're all human beings and we can all really relate to what everyone is saying. For me, I think the main one was just really connecting to my true nature and to be a little bit released from the incredible control freak that I am. My partner's laughing in the kitchen. A friend of mine wrote this song, and the words came to me just at the end of this, and it's "Lean back, baby, and enjoy the whole ride. Soon you'll be flying inside." And if you can just do that, just enjoy the ride, wherever it takes you, then you'll fly along with it. So thanks, Laurie, for that.
Thanks, Heidi. Brian?
So I really noticed an ability to focus on solutions instead of focusing on the problem and creating more negativity. It's just been a much more easy to lean towards a solution, and also an increased ability to relate to myself and my wife. So thank you, Laurie, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Brian. And Mark, final words. Last word.
Well, I want to say that it's a wonderful blueprint for moving forward for me into the future. And what comes to mind is that sense of a deep refreshment, however that lands for people through the practice, the daily practice, or through the possibilities coming in the future. It has a great sense of excitement for me to proceed, into the tomorrow with this kind of these tools. And I guess most importantly, I just want to thank Laurie, you not just for this course, but you've shared that you've been sort of exploring for the last 20 years or more, and we've all benefited from that journey that you've been on. And so in your deep caring and love for all of us to bring this to us in the classes that you're offering and in the work that you've done personally. So I want to just thank you for that that love that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I'm just really touched by what everyone has to say. And so as I said, this is just the start. And I wish you all a wonderful journey through the good and the bad. And I look forward to seeing you soon. And if you want to, as usual, if you want to stay on, if you have any questions, please feel free to do that. And a deep bow to everyone for your presence throughout the course and your dedication. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you to everyone.
I
Catch that wave, Enrico.
will.
Thanks.
Bye.
Lori, can I ask you a question?